Going to dive right in. Start off with the NBA. 509 Cleveland minus the 13.5. 506 under. 204 Charlotte. Orlando. 516 Oklahoma City minus the 13.5. Minus the 14. 520 under. 225 in the Milwaukee, Minnesota game. And finally, 526 under. 233.5 Portland, Denver. Over in college basketball. Starting off with a total early game. 681 East Tennessee State, Western Carolina over 139.5. 692 Rhode Island minus the 1.5. 697 LaSalle plus the 14. 705 VMI plus the 10. 724 Wichita State minus 5.5, minus 6. 729 Belmont minus the 4. 738 under 145.5 Washington, Ohio State. 740 Illinois State plus the 2.5. Finally, 751 last game on the board, Wyoming plus the 17. And an added game, Navy 306 542, Navy minus the 2. Again, it's early, but as you can see, already got in some early action. A lot of times there's some overnights as well, but I don't have a lot of confidence releasing those because more times than not, they're just simply manipulating the market, getting out ahead on low limits where you could move it in the way you want and then come back the other way. But these have been fired on since early this morning.
Now, Memphis played last night. And, in that game, they played a very solid game. They beat Phoenix. They were a 4.5-point favorite. They won by 7. I traditionally look to fade NBA teams playing with no rest in this type of role. But when you're talking about the Memphis Grizzlies, throw that thought out the door. They are 7-1 with no rest this year, and they're an amazing 11-1 ATS when they have less rest than their opponent. Now, the Clippers are 6-4 against the spread versus a no-rest team, so on the plus side. But when you break that out, when they're a big favorite playing a team with no rest, a favorite of 8 or more, they're a perfect 5-0. But when the Clippers are a dog or a small favorite playing a team with no rest, they're actually 1-4 against the spread. So the overall numbers are good. But when you look at the favorite dog dichotomy splits, this is a fade situation for them. This is another one that I am going to bet first half, and I'm going to bet Memphis over 56.5. I told you Memphis on the road, 17-5 over under. They're 13-2 over under as an away dog. And if you look at them as an away dog with a total of 238 or less, they are a perfect 10-0 over under this year. But again, another first half, second half split here. When Memphis has no rest, they average 66 points in the first half and only 59 points in the second half. They wear out in the second half. They allow 53 points in the first half, and they allow 58.3 points in the second half. So let me paraphrase that again. When Memphis has no rest, they are plus 13 points per game in the first half. They are only plus 1 point per game in the second half. The LA Clippers are 13-5 as a home favorite, but only 8-9 ATS as a home favorite in the first half. And off a home win, the Clippers are 7-2 full game, but only 3-4-1 in the first half. So I've added a lot more first half, second half plays to my arsenal this year. It's given me great success in the NBA. So best bet here for the show, Memphis Grizzlies, first half over 56.5. Cal has been home all 3 games in the month of February. Their last road game was January 29th at SMU. Now they're traveling across country, off a game on Saturday, and I'll tell you what, these kids are going to be in awe walking into Cameron Indoor Arena for the first time. It's going to be a crazy scene, especially for a fired-up Dukies crowd playing off the loss. Now, Cal has played a very weak schedule. I already talked how weak the ACC is, but during the non-conference schedule, they started off 6-1 this season, but they played a very weak non-conference schedule, number 254. Now that the competition has gotten better, in their last 4 games, Cal has averaged only 35% shooting. Cal is 4-1 as a double-digit dog, but they're only 2-3 away off a home game, and they're only 1-4 in the first half. Duke off a loss. If you go back in the last 3 years with Shearer here as the head coach, they're 6-1 ATS off a loss. They are playing great ball both offensively and defensively. Their only weakness, rebounding. And while Cal is a decent offensive rebounding team, they're not a good defensive rebounding team. But for my best bet here, Cal, I'm going to go Cal team total under 59.5. Cal is number 244 on offensive tempo. Duke presses you on defense. They are number 362 on tempo, which means there's only 4 teams that it takes more time to come down and take your average shot versus the Blue Devils defense. Duke off a loss, Cal, 2 overs, 13 unders. They lock down defense. At home off a loss, 0-7 over under, and they're holding their opponents team total 8 points per game under what the team total is. When Cal is a dog or a favorite of -6 with a total of 139 or higher, they are 3-12 over under. And with traditional rest, that's 3 days or less, the Bears, 9 straight unders, and those games have gone under by 10 points per game. It is a low team total at 59.5, but with this Cal offense and this Duke defense fired up off a loss, this is an actual client release that you're receiving here for free. Teams that I told you about, Kelly, win percentage over 70% in February, so it's later in the season, playing with double revenge off a loss as a whole favorite. How shocked would you be if I told you the ATS record is 11-30, 27%? So you cannot have preconceived notions that you think a team is off a loss as a home favorite and have revenge, and that is just a reason to play them. Understand what you're betting into. Now, with that said, Missouri averaged 52% shooting in the 5 games previous to their back-to-back losses. And while they lost back-to-back games against Auburn and Tennessee, they shot 33 and 32%. Those defenses are number 1 and number 6 in the country with the KenPom ratings. I'm a big fan of Dennis Gates. I love what he did at Cleveland State. In 3 years, he turned that team around. He took them to a championship level type team in the Horizon League. And here's his quote. The ironic thing about this conference, you can play well in almost a perfect game and still lose. That's how good this conference is. We lost the last 2 games by a total of 7 points to 2 top 10 teams, 1 on a last-second 3-point shot. How much better do you want my guys to play? That's a very confident statement that I think they're going to take away from these 2 losses. You look at the Sooners. Yeah, the Sooners started 13-0, Kel, but they played the number 316th weakest schedule in college basketball in non-conference action. That's why they're 3-7 in conference play. When I also look at Oklahoma, they've only played, this is only their 5th true road game. They're 1-4 as a dog of +4 or higher. So this is an entirely different dynamic. It's also only the 2nd time this year that they are facing a team that is off a loss at home. So now you have an angry team playing Oklahoma where they've had a very favorable schedule up until this point. But this is one where I broke down first half and full game numbers. And Kelly, the start to the show when you were talking about teams not playing the first halves or playing the full game, Missouri is only 7-8 against the spread as a home favorite, but they're 11-4 in the first half. At home with a total in this range above 150, they're only 6-4 against the spread, but they're 9-1 ATS in the first half. And after a loss, only 2-3 straight up, 4-1 in the first half. As a home favorite of -6, -8 or more, they're 0-6 this season since last November. But again, 4-2 in the first half. I think this number is very cheap. Missouri -5 first half, despite what I told you at the beginning. So as long as you're aware of what the record is, it's a very small sample size over a very long period of time, so it doesn't happen very often. but I do like Missouri here. I'm going to give out best bet first half -5 for the show.
This season, Everton are leading the EPL in matches with both teams to score no, with 16-7, and they're also leading the EPL with matches with both teams to score no at home with 8-4. Liverpool are number 3 in matches with both teams to score no with 11-12, and number 4 on the road with 6-6. Now, Liverpool, last stat, they're leading the EPL in clean sheets with 10 clean sheets in 23 matches, and Everton are number 2 with 9 clean sheets in 23 matches. So Liverpool have the most clean sheets on the road with 6-12, and Everton have the most clean sheets at home with 5-12. So historical data in this head-to-head, as well as results from the season, all point towards to at least one of the two teams not scoring. So give me both teams to score no at -112. This match goes live later today.
Brighton versus Chelsea. You like the over here, over 2.5 goals, as well as both teams to score.
Yeah, this is one of the actually, it's a very interesting way to bet on this match. These two actually met 4 days ago in the FA Cup. Brighton beat Chelsea by 2-1, and that was the 4th consecutive match between the two sides that produced both teams to score and over 2.5 goals, with a 5-1 run in the last 6 and 8-1 to the both teams to score. Now, there is a 7-1 run to the both teams to score in head-to-head matches in this venue between these two sides, and 6-2 to the over 2.5 goals, with a combination of both teams to score and over 2.5 goals showing up in 4 of the last 5. Now, this season, Brighton are number 2 in the EPL in matches that produced both teams to score with a 71% hit rate, 17-7, and number 3 at home with a 73% hit rate, 8-3. Really good numbers for both teams to score. Now, Chelsea, they're number 1 in the EPL in matches with both teams to score with a 75% hit rate, 18-6, and number 2 on the road with a 67% hit rate, 8-4. Chelsea are currently on a 5-0 run to the both teams to score and over 2.5 goals in all competitions. So we are essentially talking about two teams that have great offensive virtues. They can score a lot of goals, but their defenses are leaky. They don't really keep clean sheets. So give me both teams to score and over 2.5 goals. Same game parlay at -132.
All right, the most exciting game here on this slate, but it's not until Saturday. So we're going to wait a few days, but you, I'm assuming, are wanting to get ahead of the under here in Manchester City versus Newcastle.
Well, I'm going to start with just mentioning a little analogy, because maybe some people do not know who these teams are or how good they are. Manchester City are like the 90s Bulls. They're like a team that has a lot of superstars, probably one of the best managers in the world in coach Pep Guardiola. They won 4 EPL titles in a row and 6 of the last 7. So this is a team that's like among the best in Europe. However, this season, they've fallen off a cliff. There's multiple reasons why that happened, mainly injuries to key players. And the manager actually went through a rough divorce that left him devastated. If you watch any of the matches for Manchester City, he looks really, really sad in the bench. Now they just yesterday, they were hosting Real Madrid in the Champions League. They were 2-0 up, 2-1 up at home. They ended up losing that match with a last-minute goal. Real Madrid beat them by 3-2. It's a really, really bad situation for them, because right now they're sitting 15 points behind Liverpool in the EPL. So they really cannot make a push for the EPL title. And now the Champions League is almost out of their grasp, because they're going to play next Wednesday in Madrid against Real Madrid for the second leg. So in between those two crucial matches for the Champions League, they have to host Newcastle, who they were pretty much nobodies up until 3, 4, 5 years ago. When I say nobodies, I mean that they were a mid-tier side in the EPL, but the Saudis bought them. They threw some money on them, and they're doing really, really well. Now, Newcastle, these two are actually tied in the EPL with 41 points. Newcastle, they can do some damage here, but I don't like where the line is moving. City are now -110 favorites at home. The draw is at +330. Newcastle are +250 underdogs on the road, with the Asian total set at 3.25. That's a split line between the 3 and the 3.5. And I like the under here. Newcastle, they've, the matches against top teams in the EPL, they always go under the total. They played Chelsea. They beat Arsenal 3 times this season, all matches went to the under. They have 2 unders against Chelsea, 1 under versus Manchester United. And of course, a 1-1 draw against Manchester City in the reverse fixture. So, only one of the last 6 head-to-head matches had 3 goals or more. And now the Asian total, again, is set at 3.25, which is a split line between 3 and 3.5. So we like the under 3.25 goals here, which gets us paid in the event of 0, 1, or 2 goals. And we even get half a payout if there's exactly 3 goals. Now, it's always tricky to bet unders in the EPL, but I have reasons to believe that Newcastle will try to take advantage of whatever's going on Manchester City's camp and, take it slow, because if they try to turn this into a goal fest, they might lose this one. So I think Newcastle, they have a solid defense. They can keep this total at a minimum. So give me the under 3.25 goals at even money.
This is a Chicago team that has given up. They're in just full-blown tank mode. They're giving up 130 points per game to the opposition. And so we're looking at fading them again. And I'm going to go back to Ozzer Thompson. Kelly, Ozzer Thompson over his points, rebounds, says, this was my is this trend your friend on social media yesterday. And it hit easily. Detroit was up almost 50 at halftime. I mean, Chicago scored 29 points in the first half. This is a team that is not playing defense. They're not playing offense. In the last 6 games, I'm not sure what happened with Thompson. I don't know if he's getting some hype from his brother or what, but he's averaging 14 points, 5.5 rebounds, 2.5 assists. And last night, Kelly, he only needed to play 22 minutes because of the blowout, and he still flew over this points, rebounds, and assist total. You would like to think Chicago shows a little bit more pride in this game and maybe keeps it a little bit closer. That way Thompson can play a few more minutes, but even if he only plays 25, 27 minutes, he's been shooting the ball lights out, and Chicago is giving no resistance on defense. So I'm going to continue to fade some of these teams that are really bad on defense right now. Milwaukee is one of them that I think you can fade without Giannis. They've been terrible. And Atlanta, poor Atlanta. They look so great at the beginning of the year, injuries, and they've kind of thrown in the towel on the season. So, Kelly, leading up to All-Star break, these are the teams I'm looking to fade and take some player props on the opposition. 3 weeks ago, Hideki Matsuyama shot 75, 70, and 76 in 3 rounds at this course, and that was in nice weather. Kelly, the weather this week is awful. It is raining there right now. It's not even 60 degrees. Tomorrow, it's going to be raining again. It's going to be less than 60 degrees. The wind is going to be 10 miles an hour or higher. This is important because this course, the fairways are fairly narrow. The rough is really thick, and this is the longest course that they will play on tour. This is going to be a brutal couple of days. And Hideki Matsuyama's big Achilles heel this year has been his driving accuracy. Kelly, if you do not hit fairways, you are going to be in the thickest, wettest, most disgusting rough that it's going to be really hard to get the ball out of. This is not a course you can overpower. At the same time, the course is super long. I think the winner of this tournament may be over par. So Hideki only needs to shoot 1 over tomorrow, and I just don't see where any birdies come from. It's going to have to be some really long putts. It's just going to be absolutely miserable. He didn't play this well at this course 3 weeks ago when it was good weather. I don't see how he gets off to a good start here. Take Matsuyama over 72.5 score in his first round. We're going to take him to go under 98.5 on his 3-dart average in his first match. Kelly, he only averaged 94.03 last week, and the big problem was his checkouts. He was only 4 of 13 on checkouts. If you have a high percentage of checkouts, your average is going to be way high. If you're struggling at the end of the game and the end of the leg to close out these matches, and you're only hitting like a 5 and a 20, and then you miss the board, your average just plummets. That's where you really get the value in these unders. So this 98.5, this just feels like an awful lot for a guy that struggled last week.